Hello there, Salim Omar here from the CPA Marketing Genius Podcast, bringing you another special guest. This guy is somebody I've known for a little while, a good while. His name is Charles McKissick. Charles, welcome.
Hello, Salim. Great to see you again.
Yeah, same here. So, folks, Charles is one of us, meaning he is an accountant by education and he was in the field. He's a former CPA, he's a graduate of the Oklahoma State University as an accountant. And he's been in the field of accounting and investment for the last 35 years. And then for the last 7, 8 years, he's been with a company called Unison Globus. It's a global company that works with accounting firms in the US and England, helping them with their with their outsourcing accounting and tax service needs. Charles, I'm really excited, and I want to, I've been looking forward to this session because talent, it's one of the things I hear a lot when I'm talking to practice owners is how much lack of talent is affecting their practice and so forth, the negative impact it has had. So I want to start off by first asking, is the talent crisis really, is it real? Or is it something that practitioners are thinking on in their own head?
Yeah, Salim, thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, it is real, and it really comes down to three factors. The aging population in North America, people like you and I, God willing, we're going to live a long time, but we're probably in the back end of our working careers. Uh, and therefore there's just not as many people in the workforce. Secondly, in the accounting industry, when I went to school many, many years ago, approximately 2% of university and college graduates studied accounting. Now it's down closer to less than 0.5%. And the
Hmm.
pandemic did not help. So there's just not enough people coming into the pipeline. And I think another thing is that younger people today have so many different career choices. I mean, I started back when we were footing with an adding machine. It was just
Hmm.
beginning computers. So now with technology, there's so many different things young people can pursue, and unfortunately, they're not pursuing accounting as a career.
Hmm. Yeah. What's the how is it impacting from your lens, from your perspective? How is it impacting practice owners not finding talent that can get the work done?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any one individual only has 24 hours in a day, and you can only work and do so much yourself. So if you're trying to delegate, you're trying to build a team, it is really hard to attract and retain. And I'm not just saying people, but good people. That's the real key. I mean, you can go out and
Hmm.
find people, but finding the right people that have the skill set that want to buy into your goals and objectives and support what you're trying to achieve, it's harder and harder. So what's happening to the CPAs we talk with in many instances, they're having to work more hours because if you can't get someone else to do it, you have to do it yourself. And then having to work more hours, which leads to fatigue because you only have so much brain power. You have to start turning
Hmm.
clients because you have trouble handling the existing clients, and in many cases, the service you're providing to your existing clients can slip because you can't be in two places at once. And then unfortunately what it means is if you can't find people, then you're not able to working on how to improve your business, working on your business as opposed to being
Hmm.
an employee of your business, or work on marketing and other strategies to try to attract the type of clients you'd prefer to work with. Maybe people who have greater needs and are able to pay higher fees because of the value you're adding for them. And another thing that is often not talked about, but you know, eventually you want to sell your practice
Hmm.
potentially. And if you don't have a good team, and as well, the people who are potentially considering buying your practice don't have a team to do the work, that it makes it much more difficult to sell your practice. There's a lot of folks who want to sell and a lot of people to buy, but again, nobody can do the work to facilitate the transaction. So there's a lot of things that are impacting CPA firm owners.
It's depressing, Charles. You know, I mean, it's such a big thing. I mean, having the right people, right? Having the right people sitting in the right seats in the bus. Good to Great, right? The book,
Yeah, yeah,
Good to Great, and it's such an important aspect of having a successful business, or a business that allows us to sleep at peace at night. And we've got this big thing that's not, it's a challenge in our industry, and it's been prolific in the last 10 years. It's gotten worse and worse, with lack of talent. And then the people, like you said, it's sometimes you find the people, but they're not the right people. And I'll give you an example. I hired, my firm's growing and we're constantly hiring, and we want to hire people in America. And then we have a team through your company with outsource. So we hired somebody, offered the position, accepted the position, and then a no-show. An American accountant, seasoned, 20 years in the field, just a no-show, no text, no email. So I don't know what has happened, but, and this wasn't the first time
yeah.
for me. And I've heard this story from others many times.
Yeah, I think, during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, it definitely reframed how people think about their work-life balance. And I believe that there's many in the accounting profession who, whether it's burnout or suffering mental breakdowns, it is, it's hard on everybody. It's been a tough 3 years. And thankfully, it appears we're on the other end, but I think the toll taken on some people was very, very difficult. And we're hearing more about the effect of people suffering mental health issues in the accounting profession, which is really, really sad because it's such a noble profession. It's so important. We can do great things for people who need the help, and as well be compensated and earn a good living for the value we're providing. It's a very fair. It's a fair transaction. You're being paid well, hopefully for something where you're really adding value. So I find it's unfortunate, definitely.
All right. So share with us some light at the end of the tunnel. What's the solution?
Well, there are solutions, and one of the great things is, if you can't find people locally or domestically, there are many, many people around the world in various jurisdictions who are skilled in U.S. tax and GAAP and accounting. So there's a huge global talent pool, and there's a variety of reasons why that is. But essentially, since globalization started 30 years ago, big companies have been employing people around the world for a long time, and the accounting industry is not any different. The big four, it was the big eight when I started. They've had outsourced captive units, tens of thousands of people overseas for over 30 years. So one of the things you can do is look outside of the United States and North America to build a skilled, dedicated remote team. And if you do that, you can find great people who fit your needs and want to work. Whether you hire people remotely through an outsourcing engagement, or you're trying to retain the existing people you have, you really have to work on your processes. You have to make it a fun work environment. You have to make sure that things are done as efficiently and effectively as possible, so you can generate the most productivity. And you have to embrace technology. I know a lot of people, I think the average age of the accounting firm owner is well into their 50s. Some of us are more comfortable with technology than others, but the tools out there today are there to help you. So whether you're trying to make your own practice more effective for yourself and your domestic employees, or you're bringing in people from overseas, you've got to utilize the tools that will make your life easier.
Yeah, great. That's
I
great
think
to hear.
there's some universal truths, whether there's some things that everybody should be doing no matter where you're building your team from.
Right, right. That's great to hear. Now, when it comes to outsourcing, what are the advantages of outsourcing? And I want you to be very transparent and upfront with us in terms of what are the cons, what are the negatives, what are the challenges when it comes to outsourcing?
Yeah, so normally when we talk to people who've never utilized remote team members, the four things that come up normally are: how can I ensure my client's data is secure? That's probably the number one component. How do I know that the people that I'm going to be utilizing actually are skilled and have the right talent to meet the needs of my business? Understanding the communication, whether our team is in India, there's people in the Philippines, Latin America, Mexico, Africa, all of the folks speak English, but then sometimes it's the ability to speak English and the ability to speak understandable English. So overcoming those cultural and communication differences is probably a perceived con. It's something that you have to work on, but it is initially, it's one of those things that causes people to be concerned. And then just the time difference, depending on what the jurisdiction is, unless they're in the Western Hemisphere, the people are working in different time zones. So you have to combat or become comfortable with the idea of, how do I structure things in such a way that I could actually use the fact that I have people in different time zones as a positive as opposed to a negative. So those are usually the four potential areas that people are concerned with. And again, there's a solution for all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. What are the pros? I mean, talk to us like from an expense or cost standpoint. Is there a difference between hiring, somebody in America versus hiring somebody, offshore? How big of a difference is it?
Yes, definitely cost is a huge benefit for utilizing people who live and work in other countries. And in most cases, the cost savings compared to the same skilled professional in the United States is well over 50%. And in sometimes it could be as high as 70%, depending on what part of the country you're in, and some of the other things such as benefits and 401k and vacation and all these things. So cost is a huge savings. And again, if you can produce the same amount of revenue or more revenue at a lower cost, guess what? That just goes straight to your bottom line. So cost is a huge issue. Secondly, and I'd say this is the most important thing, because of the younger populations in many of these countries, and also a surprisingly strong work ethic, you can find people who actually want to work. They are excited. They're forming families. Want to provide for their spouses and their children and their parents. And they're very keen and motivated to work. So like the example you use of someone you hired, you committed, they didn't show up, and they didn't even communicate.
And this is after extensive interviewing. It wasn't just like, okay, you want a job, we got a job. It wasn't that. Like, as you know, I kind
you
of
didn't
put
just
people
put it
through
in the
all the,
ads in the newspaper like
take them through hoops and reference checks and pretty extensive stuff. And after that,
you invested a lot of time getting to that point. So you've got people who want to work, and that is a key. You can't underestimate the power of having somebody who's keen, wants to learn, wants to improve their skills, and wants to buy in what you're trying to do. So in order to make sure that if you're utilizing people who are from a different area of the world in a different time zone, the key things you have to work on to make it successful is ensure that you have structured, regular communication. It's like getting to know each other. I think even many times when businesses hire people domestically, they don't go through enough of the process of welcoming a person, getting to know them, making sure that the key to effective communication is making sure that the person you're talking to understands what you're saying and gets back. So a dialogue. So you've got to have regular dialogue to get to know each other, and start to do that and treat them as individuals, and they also start to buy into your goals. Then the walls come down, the productivity increases, and I think that's a huge thing that a lot of businesses, it used to be go to your desk, start working, don't bother me because I'm too busy working on what I'm working on. I need you to work on your, you have to invest a little time up front to get to know the people. Definitely, like I mentioned in the other section, you've got to invest in technology. If you're working with people remotely, you've got to use the right type of technology to communicate effectively, to ensure data security. That's the number one thing too. You've got to have the right software tools, hardware, firewall, all of these pieces, which, there is an initial cost up front, but the ROI you get from successfully implemented pays for it 10 times over. So, and then you have to really work on that structured process. Not only we're going to talk on a regular basis, we're going to get to know each other, but also the clear understanding of what the expected outcomes are, what deliverables look like. How do we communicate, let's say, if you don't understand something? And at what point do you start to say, I'd rather, instead of you asking me a question every time you don't understand something, I want you to go ahead and take a judgment and then tell me what you decided. And then I can go back and review it and tell you what I'd like to change. Because a lot of times, your remote employee might well make the right decision, and wasting time, you have to empower them. I guess that's what the thing, the way to describe it. But
yeah.
I think that's really, treat them well, like you'd want to be treated yourself. And
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and we've worked with your company for the last 8+ years actually. And you mentioned communication, and that's so true, and that's so important. Communication is really the key. And what we've done that's really worked for us, like two things when it comes to communication, is one is we've got scheduled meetings on the calendar once a month. At the last Wednesday of the month, there's a meeting scheduled with the team on your side at Unison Globus, right? So we have got one meeting with the accounting team there. We've got one meeting with the tax team there. And that's a great opportunity to just say, hey, what's working? What's something we can do better? Just an open dialogue, right? That's been really very effective for us. The second thing that's been very effective for us is feedback, good and bad. Yeah. When there's stuff that's done well, just a quick email saying, man, this was done really well. Good job. And if it's not done well, if there's any room for improvement, an oversight or something, give that same feedback. Hey, so that they know and everyone learns through that process. And so that's been very effective, where, things that we see, any errors, and there's not many, but, at times there's, ways of interpreting something in a different way. When we do that, we get that feedback so that it's not then made again. And that's been really effective.
Yeah, you bring up a great point there. If everybody makes mistakes, the more we work and the more we become familiar and skilled, we make less mistakes. But everybody, even those of us who have less hair than we used to, still occasionally make a mistake, But the key is to, like you say, to let them know, hey, when you were working on this file, this it should have been something else. That's how people learn. I
Right.
find a lot of times, sometimes people, CPAs will say, "Oh, it takes me less time to just correct it," which I understand it. If you have a deadline and there's a mistake you can correct, but then make sure you bookmark it and save it. And when you do have, whether it's your weekly meeting or monthly meeting, that you go back and say, "Hey, remember when you worked on this return or this file, I made this correction. So next time, I want you to categorize it like this," or, and again, that's how, and normally when you show them once, they don't tend to make the same mistake again. So yeah, that's the feedback is key. And particularly with as generational changes, people want feedback. People need, I think we always need affirmation, but I think the younger generation requires that a little bit more because that's how they've been raised. So if you not only tell them then when they need to learn something, but also let them know, "Hey, you did a great job." It goes a long way.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, I've talked to so many people that have used your firm, and you guys have helped so many firms, and you've got the onboarding process in place and all that really dialed in. You've got the data security stuff dialed in. You've got the team, the training, and all that. So for folks that are watching this, that are listening to this, Charles, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? Is there a phone number, an email address, or something they can just direct? I want them to directly just connect with you, and you can have a conversation with them and seeing if they're, what their needs are and if you can help them.
Oh, super. Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with anyone who is interested in sharing what they're doing in their business, and maybe see if there's a way we can work together to help you take things to a different level. My phone number direct to me is area code 647-929-1674. So it's just 647-929-1674. That's how you can reach me on the phone. My email is just charles@unisonglobus.com. So it's just CHARLES at UNISONGLOBUS.com. Had to think about that for a second.
Thank you for spelling that out. That's awesome. Good, Charles. I really appreciate it. This was good. This is really good. I mean, at whatever time in the year we are in, when you're watching this or listening to this, I mean, now we've got tax season right around the corner, so this is a perfect time. But if you happen to watch this 6 months from now and it's summer or something, I mean, this is really a good opportunity to, really consider outsourcing and adding a remote team to your team to get the work done, to grow your firm, to work less. Charles, this was good, man. Really enjoyed it. You take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Salim, and everybody have a great day.